All right, hello everyone. It's Tuesday at 8 p.m. and you know what that means. It's time for our weekly ITB TV Ask ITB live stream with, of course, myself, Jeff Mosher, and that man right there, Adam Kaplan. We'll spend the next half hour or so answering questions, and we're getting closer to the draft, Adam. And I know the draft questions will line up. We've talked to more people, and of course, had the pleasure again of having the third installment of our show Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell that just dropped this morning at 6 a.m., where we detailed pass rushers, and I thought it was our best one. I mean, they're all great, but the detail, and as you said on Twitter today, he was very excited about a certain pass rusher that he glowed in a way over a defensive player, and you've known the guy for 20 years that you haven't seen him glow before. So I mean, like that before. So a very fascinating take on pass rushers.
You will learn. Yeah, you will learn, Jeff. You'd asked him a bunch of questions in the show about how he grades tape, how he watches. The whole idea behind Inside the Birds is to help people become better football fans, not just Eagles fans. We have a lot more. As we learned, not all of our people are listening to Eagles fans, not even close. Giant fans let us know. Washington fans, Raider fans, Browns fans. And particularly because we're doing draft shows with Greg, probably 60 to 70% are Eagles. The rest are everybody else. So we're not just talking Eagles here. We will. Obviously, that'll be the focus, but it'll never be everything with the draft. So no matter what fan you are of these draft shows, whatever team you follow, you're going to learn something because, as a matter of fact, Greg's dropped some knowledge on Jadeveon Clowney. Greg told the truth on Clowney. He graded it. He watched it. Doesn't think he's a very good football player. I mean, you have to. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what he said. He's not a very good pass rusher. He's
right, and there's a specific reason why. Right.
Yeah, the last good year I'm told he had was 18. It's the last good year.
Correct.
He's really good at 18.
Right, and Greg doesn't just say he's not a good pass. I mean, Greg literally tells you what he sees on tape to justify why he can say that a guy who was picked number one overall has not lived up to that and does not have what other premier pass rushers in the league have. So everybody can check that out on our Inside the Birds YouTube and podcast platforms. Really riveting stuff. Now, next week, we're going to do linebackers. So we've done cornerbacks, a very important position for the Eagles. We've done pass rushers, a position that they value. We've done developmental quarterbacks because you and I have talked about that for the Eagles, who only have two on the roster. And I think next week will be a very popular draw for that show because it's going to be about linebackers. And certainly that's an area where we know the Eagles don't value high first round, but really should value it in this draft, second, third round somewhere, because there are some really good linebackers in this draft. Real quick before we get to questions, OTAs now, two teams, right? The Broncos and the Seahawks have issued statements that kind of represent their players, and they're not going to attend in-person OTAs. And I got to give you credit. The non-mandatory, the voluntary ones. Got to give you credit because you've been saying for quite a while that this is no sure thing that there's going to be OTAs the way we used to remember OTAs because there's a lot that has to be worked out. And clearly there's not enough that's been worked out to make the Seahawks and Broncos, and we'll see if any other teams follow. Basically encourage everyone not to go. Now I'll ask you, does that include rookies and second-year players? Is this it
would be my understanding was it would be everyone. Why would they? Okay, it's not like they're saying, okay, you young guys could go, we're going to stay out.
Right.
My understanding was that everyone, but here's the real story here. The NFLPA, the Players Association, look, the veterans don't want to go. They just don't around the NFL. They don't need it. I remember hearing Bill Polian say this. This surprised me, but knowing Bill, I understood what he meant. He was on a couple months ago on NFL radio. He was talking about, the veterans. The guys have been in the league a long time. They don't need an offseason, but the young guys do. But just to hear him say even veterans don't need an offseason, I was kind of laughing because, like, when he was a Colts GM, he never would have said that.
Right.
But it's just, you have more information. You don't feel like you have to put your guard up. The fact of the matter is, once you've been in the league 5 years, you really don't need it. Once you've established yourself. Now, if you're a second-year guy going to your third year, you might need it. In fact, you probably do. And man, if the biggest issue, and we'll bring up some Eagle stuff here, for Jalen Reagor, for Quez Watkins, for Hightower,
Jalen Hurts,
Jalen Hurts, assuming he's still going to be the starter for now, he definitely is. And quite frankly, Joe Flacco, just to get time with those guys.
Agreed.
And get time with Dallas Goedert.
Yeah,
it would be great. But
and look, when you have a new coaching staff, for example, I think it's just as important for Alex Singleton, who will be in year 3, maybe even more so than someone like Mike, the guy that just signed, Eric Lewis or Eric Wilson. I'm sorry, or Anthony Harris, because those guys are playing in a defense that they already know about. Alex Singleton's about to transition to a new defense. These defensive linemen who have been shooting the gaps and going forward all the time in the old Jim Schwartz way for 4 or 5 years now are going to learn a little bit different techniques. Not completely different, but what I'm saying is because of the new schemes offensively and defensively, I think it's a widespread impact for the Eagles. And I had asked you the question because I do feel like what you're saying is that and J.C. Treader, who is the Browns center and also the president of the NFLPA, it sounds like he's the players in general are also have an eye on the future and wondering if they should attend, as you're saying, if OTAs are going to be important for anybody maybe 3, 4, 5 years in, whether there's a pandemic or not. We might be headed in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, non-mandatory, you don't have to show up. And here's the other thing. It's funny, coaches are not allowed to put pressure. Front office people are not allowed to put pressures on the player to come in for non-mandatory work.
Right.
The players will tell you, as you know, over the years, coaches sometimes drop hints. They sort of lead on. Hey, listen, we need you here. We need you here.
Coughlin used to always do that. He was very vocal about it. Tom Coughlin.
Vocal
about it.
That's another guy. Jaguars, he got in trouble with the injury stuff. They wanted guys to rehab there when they didn't need to. NFLPA got involved. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens here. I really hope the players get on the field for at least a little bit. The mandatory camp is one where, okay, that'll help. Whether it's 3 days or 5 days, whatever it is, you'll take anything you can get.
Right.
But no matter what fan of a team you are, if they're young, like Washington, for instance, they're going to be young at certain spots.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Eagles, as you said, they have a new coaching staff that are implementing offensive, defensive schemes. They're going to be installing. Virtual installing, I've talked to coaches about this, is a pain in the ass.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, that's all you can do. That's all they did last year. And if that is what winds up happening, good luck.
Yeah, I can take a whole lot of virtual golf instructions, but put me out there on the fairways, the tee boxes and the greens. It's a whole different story. So, all right, we got a bunch of questions lined up, so we're going to get to them first. Remind everybody, our friends at Draftkings sponsors ITB TV. Basketball teams are entering the final month of the regular season as they gear up for the playoffs. And while some teams are locked to make playoffs, others are still fighting for their opportunity to chase the trophy this summer. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting you in the center of the action with a chance to turn $1 into $100 in free bets. Turn $1 into $100. It's simple. Pick any basketball team to win their next game. And if during that game, the team of your choosing hits a 3, you bring home $100 in free bets. It's that simple. 100 to 1 odds on the team of your choosing just to hit a 3, and they don't even need to win. This year's team has been hitting teams have been hitting threes at unprecedented pace. So get in on all of the action with DraftKings Sportsbook before the offer ends. DraftKings is safe, secure, reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So download that top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free bets if the basketball team of your choice hits a 3. That's code ITB to turn $1 into $100 in free bets for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You have to be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get to these questions. We got them lined up. There are a lot of good ones here. So let's start off with a question from Nathan Winder. And he asks if we know what kind of level the Eagles have as far as interest in Jabril Cox, the linebacker from LSU. I do believe, I don't know specifically. I think they had some people at LSU's pro day, but I mean, they're going to go to every team's pro day.
Right. It's really hard to know that stuff. Just so you know, even more than ever, like I'm sitting on some stuff, some meetings Eagles have had with players.
Mm-hmm.
They mean next to nothing. Area scouts they're going to meet with, whether it's after the pro day or interview through Skype or whatever it is, Zoom. So many players from their area. It's really not a big deal. People severely overrate this stuff. I'm going to say from 03 to 13, I'm not joking. I used to track this stuff religiously, probably 750 visits, and more than anyone in the country. I did it. I wanted to get at what I called positional profile. It doesn't tell you who they're going to draft. What it tells you, when we had, we have to go back to 19. That was the last time we had visits. If a team if they have, of their top 30, if they have 20 receivers in there, they're going to draft a receiver. That's the only thing it tells you. It doesn't tell you who they're going to draft at all. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. You would have to think that any of the top rated linebackers that we're talking about, Xavier Collins, and when I say top rated, we know the Eagles don't traditionally, and they probably won't this year. They're not drafting the linebacker at 12, right? So, but that's why he asked about Cox. Yeah. You're wondering about guys in that second round, third round range. Nick Bolton is a guy that a lot of people like. So, I mean, I would have to think the Eagles have done. I know they've done their homework on all of them, and we'll just see when they do pick what they come home with. But I mean, I certainly think linebacker, as you've heard me say a million times, Adam, if you're not going to invest a lot of money or first round capital into a linebacker, then you should use second and third round picks on linebackers, as long as the board says that they're worthy of that, because how else are you going to get good ones? I think that's how they got in there.
I would disagree slightly. It's not about where you draft them. It's how you develop them. Now, they've missed on a bunch of linebackers over the years. There's no question. We have the results. When you draft them, how about coaching them better? How about developing them? How about drafting better football players? You don't have to draft guys in the second round.
Well, how many times do you hear a coach say that I'm only as good as the talent they're giving me? I mean, I see what you're saying, but I don't. I feel like Alex Singleton's a good example of somebody who developed under them. But the bottom line is, Adam, no matter how much he outperforms who he's supposed to be, he's still the fourth best linebacker or the third best linebacker on a different team. You can't tell me you can just turn a bunch of 5th, 6th, 7th round linebackers constantly and develop them into really.
No, but I'll take a third.
At some point, you got to use a second or a third.
Yes,
like a Michael Kendricks.
I'll take a third. Here, there are two things off that. Mm-hmm. I'll take a guy who should be drafted in the third, not the 5th, like Davion Taylor.
Bingo.
That kind of stuff can't happen.
I agree.
You can't take. We're going to get into some stuff on Thursday's show. I don't want to give the answers to the test yet, but we're gonna take a deep dive in some draft stuff, which we typically don't do, but just to give you an idea of how things could be better. But we've talked about, we said it after our post-draft show, we know for a fact that Davion Taylor did not have a third-round grade.
Correct.
So, and you'd done a really good job of outlining for our listeners after that show about what you'd heard from kind of where he is in a developmental standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's no better off then. The only thing is he got some playing time. Okay. But he's a major project. That's another problem that they have. Draft them where you have them graded, or draft them the way that you know that they can play for you.
Right.
This guy was a major project who should have been drafted in the 5th round, where their grade was. Well, I'll never understand why they drafted him in the 5th. I have some theories, and we'll go with that on Thursday. We're going to take a deep dive into not only some of the misses, but why they miss, and why they've hit.
Yes.
And it's just this is a constant issue for fans. We know, we see the comments. It's so over the top, and I get it. They're completely frustrated with the general manager. We know that. Owner
and
probably
and the owner too now. Yeah.
Yep. Well, look, it's not anyone who's been with us since the beginning. And when we put it out there, we 3 years ago, or guys, this is our 4th year. Yeah, 18.
Mm-hmm.
We had said that we know for the fact that the owner's involved. We knew about certain things that he was involved with. Now, the Arcega-Whiteside pick, he was absolutely involved with.
Yep.
Which we outlined before anyone had any idea. Probably within 2 or 3 weeks, we put it on our post-draft show in 19, that he is a guy that he really liked.
Right.
I don't know how much he had an influence on it. I wasn't in there, so I don't know.
Well, we know that analytics is a big part of how they're drafting now.
Yes, that one was an analytics pick.
Yep.
Catch radius, certain things he did to catch the football, and he's 6'2". But here's the problem: the tape doesn't match up to the numbers. And
Correct.
this is why the owner should never be involved in anything other than owning the team, being supportive. Support the people who've been scouting for 9 months. And that's just something I'm probably going to get into a little bit more on Thursday's show. It just bothers me. I mean, you've talked about it before. It's just, I'm not a fan, and it bothers me. I hate this. And Jeffrey Lurie's not he's not the only owner who does this.
Correct.
And I get the analytics part of it, but man, just go by what the tape shows you. Oh, he knows better than that, because he knows better than that.
And I think that kind of just kind of answers also a question that was asked by Snarvel33 about is there any amount of negative coverage or stories that's going to make Jeffrey Lurie fire Howie? But when you have two guys who are kind of lockstep right now, I mean, he's not fired. He's going to be the GM. Let's see what happens in the future. It's hard to answer that question at the moment we sit here. Jeffrey and Howie are in lockstep. That much I can see. Let's go to a question from CJ Lee. I love this question. Should Eagles fans be upset if the medicals on Caleb Farley come back favorable and they decide to pick him over Patrick Surtain II?
They're not.
JC Horn?
They're not. There's a better chance of you becoming mayor, CJ, than that happening. It's not happening.
Wait, of what? The medicals coming back favorable, or them picking him over those
there's
two?
No chance in hell that Caleb Farley would be drafted ahead of those two.
But should he is the
medical.
question.
I know I'm very well up on the medical. Like, I couldn't be more up on this one.
Oh, good.
I've been digging on him and a couple other guys who have major medical issues. I'll still say this: I'm not ruling out he gets drafted in the first round, and it's going to be a team that is not worried about him playing or not playing in year one. They're going to be patient. If he's ready week one or he's ready to go in training camp, that's great. But it's not about week one. This guy is not drafted to just play 1 year. It's about the totality of his career. That's the risk. It's how you get a medical grade, 1 through 5. Typically, not every team uses that, but most do. And if you have a high number, it's bad. If you're 5, if you're the worst number, you're dropping severely. I can't imagine he's less than a 4 based on the back surgeries, the ACL. There's some other stuff. The tape's amazing for only playing corner for 2 years, but medical is medical, and GMs and owners do not overrule medicals. They just don't. That's not their job. You have to live with it. It could frustrate you. I'm sure, although he wasn't as high on their board as people have made it out to be. Metcalf was not as high. Look, the Eagles liked him, but don't let anyone fool you. He was not as high on their board as people wanted to make it out to be. That's just not true. People say it after the fact, but that, from my understanding, since he was drafted, he wasn't. They liked him, but he wasn't like, okay, the next player they were going to take was Metcalf. It wasn't like that.
It wasn't like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, DK Metcalf, no?
Well, I can't speak to how. It's not like someone told me their board, but I just had asked. I checked into it, and I just know that Metcalf is the guy they like. But to say, like, without the medicals, was he going to be the pick? I don't know that. There are other guys that they liked in that draft, for sure.
All right, let's move on and get DJ from Jersey. He asks, why is it that Terrence Marshall is not being talked about with the top tier of wide receivers?
Good player. Yeah.
He is a good player, and I've heard people tell me late first, early second type of player. So that actually does put him – I mean, I guess it doesn't put him in the Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. Maybe Jamar Chase just gets so much – of the love that he falls behind a little bit, but he is a good player. I don't know what it is exactly that doesn't make him, because he ran really fast at the pro day. Maybe it's his production on tape.
Yeah, just understand though, and this is not a knock at the so-called draft experts. They're not grading tape like the way NFL people do. Right. So if you haven't heard his name a lot, it doesn't mean he won't go high. It just means that the so-called draft experts don't like as much as people work in the National Football League. So hang on. So I don't know what that was. They just don't look at it that way. They don't. The guys who really know it, the guys who get access to coaching tape, there are not a lot of draft experts that do. Very few do. They'll know how good Marshall is. I mean, it's a guy that should be talking about. I'm not a draft expert. I'll get information. I'll feel confident saying certain things, but that's not what I do for a living. I don't grade coaching tape like our buddy Greg Cosell does. But just because a draft expert doesn't mention him doesn't mean the guy's not going to go high. Don't rely on. And I promise we will talk to Greg about the receivers. we have to. Whoever
Yeah,
we didn't.
we'll cover receivers with
Oh
him.
yeah, we're gonna cover that thing like a wet blanket, man. Trust me.
Absolutely. We did get in the first episode with him on Chase, Pitts, Waddle, and Devontae Smith, but we will get
we'll
the
do
rest
more, for
in
sure.
a future episode.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from, actually, before we get into that, I want to remind everybody watching that go check out our friends. If you're looking for a great pre-owned automobile, go check out our friends at Sky Motor Cars. You can find them at skymotorcars.com. If you do go in, if you do talk to anybody there, make sure you tell them that Adam and Jeff sent you, and you'll get a great deal. Big thanks to Sky Motor Cars. All right, next question from Coach. Coach, I'm sorry if I'm not getting your name right, Coach. Coach Lemuel. He asked, will the Eagles address the center position at some point in this draft? And he adds that he's not sure that Isaac Seumalo is an adequate replacement for Kelsey. I mean, it's hard to say that Seumalo is not, because
I don't know.
I mean, I know that the Eagles, when they drafted him, envisioned him as projecting as a center if Kelsey were to.
Oh, he was. Remember, he was drafted to be Kelsey's replacement.
That's right.
That was 100%. And then Jason all of a sudden revived his career. I don't know if he got motivated by it. I don't know if he knew.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe probably healthier too. And he just turned his career around, and he was fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. It's a phenomenal question. It's probably going to be one of those training camp questions. We need to get an answer just to get an early word. Obviously, the season, we have to play the season first. But I do wonder if they see him still as that guy. That's the question.
Right.
Or now, you and I have said pretty consistently we don't think they're going to keep all 11 picks. Well, let's say they're down to 9. Do they draft his replacement there? I'm fascinated to find out what happens here.
I am too. I feel like in the mid to later rounds, if there's an interior offensive lineman who can play center high on their board, we know how much they like to draft offensive linemen, and which is a very good strategy. I always applaud the Eagle. For as much as I criticize some of their strategies, I do think their constant drafting and development of offensive linemen has been good. Pretty much. I mean, there's always a few misses, but I mean, it's been pretty good. Like if a guy like Jimmy Morrissey from Pitt, who can play center, is there, and it's 5th round, and maybe they had a 4th round grade on him, I could certainly see them doing that. But I don't. To answer his question, I don't think that they're looking for this draft to find a Jason Kelsey replacement. I do believe that they feel that between Isaac Seumalo, Nate Herbig, who started off as a center, and Luke Juriga, an undrafted free agent that they paid a decent amount of money to for a rookie free agent, that they've got some options there. Luke Juriga may not make the team, but the point is, I don't think they're fishing for a center in this draft.
I don't know that. Definitely Juriga is not going to be his replacement. I can tell you. As you said, maybe he may not even make the team.
Right.
I'm not ruling out them doing that, because the best teams, when the Eagles have done well in the draft, and when they were doing really well under Andy Reid many years ago, and Joe Banner, they always knew that it's not about this year, the draft. I don't care how good you are. It's about the future. Free agency is about now. The draft is about the future. The best teams get that. The ones that don't will fail, and they'll all get fired.
There you go.
It's time tested. It never changes. I learned that the hard way when I would do mock drafts. When I do really bad with my friend Tony Pauline, we'd focus so much on this season, on this year's needs, and I didn't look up contract stuff. I'm like, all right, we need to do a better job of this because we're not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I started to see a pattern. The teams that got it, like our friend Bill Polian and the Eagles over the years, when they did well in the draft consistently, they're always looking toward the future needs, not just now.
Great segue into our next question, Adam. And it comes from IMMK9988. And this person asks us to rank our top 5 GM/FOs, front offices, currently in the league. So let's just give our 5, no particular order, just the 5 best. I think you have to put the Ravens and the Steelers in there.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, to me, it's 1 and 2, 1 to whatever one. They draft well, they sign well, they're always competitive, never really have bottom out type of years. So who else would you put in with that? Would you put Seattle in there?
Yes, but here's the problem. Do we now include the owner?
No, he just says GMFO. Well, Dallas, if you wanted to put Dallas in your top 5, which I wouldn't.
Here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. Eagles have a hell of a scouting staff. And I'm going to use this term again. I haven't probably used it since last year. When the process is subverted with people who shouldn't be putting their opinion in, or their opinions being taken into account, which can impact a decision,
mm-hmm.
It's a problem. I've used this example before when Jimmy Haslam put pressure on, goodness gracious, Ray Farmer, the GM of the Browns after Banner and Lombardi got fired.
Right.
To draft Johnny Manziel. You can't do that.
Right.
I don't care if you didn't say anything. You can't infer it. Let them do their job. If they've been scouting this stuff for 9 months, you know what you want to do? If you like a player like J.J. Arcega, watch tape with those guys. That's what you do.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
It bothers me. I'm sorry. It just bothers me.
It's all right. So we got Steelers. We got Ravens. We like the Seahawks. I think the Chiefs have an excellent front office and GM. Yeah.
I understand Andy has look. Andy and Brett Veach in lockstep. We got to save the Bills. Oh, the Bills probably right now, they're unbelievable. Like I am very surprised at how well Brandon Beane has done. I didn't think he had a very good first year, but I remember him telling me that they had to flip the roster with they were taking all these dead money hits. They want to get rid of him in 1 year. The Marcel Darius situation. They took a lot of cap hits. Then all they did is draft and develop. And I got to give him credit for Josh Allen. We're going to talk to Greg Cosell about Josh Allen when we hit quarterbacks next.
Okay.
Wait to hear what he has to say about that one. Because as you know, most guys who are horribly inaccurate in college do not make it to the next level. I got to give them credit. It's coaching obviously helps in a big way. But I would say Buffalo. I think
we got 5 there. We got the Ravens, we got the Steelers, we got the Chiefs, we got the Seahawks, and we got the Bills. That's a good 5 right there.
Colts are excellent.
Colts are man, that's another good one. The Colts are very good.
Ed Dodds, and you know what? I like the way Joe Douglas and Rex Hogan have done a really good job so far. I know the record doesn't show it.
Yeah.
This will be Joe's second draft. Remember, he came in after the 19 draft. I'm very anxious to see how Joe does with these 21 picks over the next 2 seasons. Probably not going to keep all of them. Then we're really going to know how good they are.
Very much agree. All right. Victor Chekhov asks, any chance teams like we see a team like Chicago perhaps trading with the Eagles up to 12 if there's a quarterback there? I don't know about Chicago, but I certainly think if a quarterback like Trey Lance or even Fields slips to 12, then there's going to be a good chance of some business there. Because then you're down far enough, Adam, where if you're like the Steelers who could use a quarterback for the future, and someone in that 18 to 21 range that might be looking toward the future but doesn't need that quarterback now could move up for that development.
Right. I don't get the sense that the Bears are looking for a guy like Trey Lance, who's a major project.
Yeah.
Trey Lance
has got to win now.
Yeah. Well, we know Dalton's going to be the starter. Like Justin Fields would be the guy to me. I haven't talked to them about Fields, but I just know about the Bears that, I mean, if they were going to take Lance, they can't. No, Dalton is only on a 1-year deal, and that was really his decision more than theirs. He just only wanted to do a 1-year deal. Does he understand it? But to me, you'd like to know for sure if that guy's going to be ready year 2. Fields to me is just got to get through the one read situation. We'll talk to Greg Cosell more about that, but he's got a lot going on, man. This kid can spin it. A lot of great tape. Lance is a major project. Mahomes, see, it's funny. People say there's some Mahomes in him. Small amount. Mm-hmm. But Mahomes was not the project that Lance was. What Mahomes was a wild thrower.
Right.
Had to settle him down. There were
just had to clean some things up. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, and I get the comparison, but that's where it stops.
All right. One last question here, unless another one comes in before we get out. But it's a good one from Anish David. Do you think that with the change in coaching staff that this will force Howie and the scouting staff to reevaluate the way they grade positions? And the first thing I want to address with that is that the word force is a little bit strange in that question. As far as I know, and I imagine you would say the same, whenever you have head coaching changes and scheme changes, it's not a force thing. It's a collaborative effort to make sure that everybody's on the same page before you start going out evaluating players on what kind of players you want for your scheme. You remember when Chip Kelly was the coach, Howie certainly drafted a different type of player, like a Marcus Smith, and a bigger, stronger slot like a Jordan Matthews. Right? Yeah, right. Exactly. They had specifications that Chip Kelly wanted, and any good front office and scouting staff. Right, and the knees. Remember measuring the knees? Right. Let's see how these knees.
Were you at the Senior Bowl when it was the craziest thing? I don't know why I didn't put it on Twitter. Like, the escalator, Jeff, to get to the second floor in the player hotel, the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I come up.
I know what
and
you're
I
going to say.
get off. I get off the escalator. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They had this, here are my tweezers, right? Here's my, like, let's just say this is a measure, like how you measure wrists. Like it's like a big oval. I'm like, what are they doing? So I asked one of their scouts or personnel guys, I'm like, what are they doing? Oh, Chip wants a certain wrist size. I'm like, because for sports science or something. I'm like, what? Well, I know Barkevius Mingo wouldn't work for him because he was too thin, but he was drafted before that. But
right.
I just thought it was the most bizarre thing that I ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what Chip wanted. Now, I think you had said that you were hearing they weren't looking for any specific specifications.
Sure, I was told that this staff in general has made it clear that they are not so. What's the word I'm looking for? Measurable, specific. Yeah. On players. They want really good players and that they'll be adaptable with their scheme to the good players. Good. Now, that doesn't mean I don't associate that to mean let's go find a 360-pound 3-4 nose tackle, right? They obviously have a scheme that they're going to run. They're going to want certain types of players, but I don't think they're going to be as picky as some coaches are. And not just Chip. I mean, a lot of coaches are picky about the types of size and height and weight of players that they're going to evaluate. All right, last one before we get at it. Did you have something more?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you put on our show, I don't know, 2 months ago that they're looking for a nose tackle, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, a run stuffing, like a nose, a guy who can play a little bit more of a traditional nose type, maybe a little head up over the
That's a little different than what they've done. Okay.
Right, because I don't think they're going to be, and this is part of your report, they're not going to be as shoot at the quarterback as they've been in the past with their defensive line.
Yeah,
right. They're going to be a little more read and react, so you want a little more stoutness there, a little bit. Plus, if you're going to play a lot of cover two, now that we're getting into it, if you're going to play a lot of two deep safeties, you need to be extra stout on your defensive line because you have one less box defender, right? Especially when you're in nickel. You don't have that safety coming into the box. Sure. So you've got to be sound up front and a little bit more stout to make sure you're making those tackles.
I promise you that there's going to be disguise here in this defense. I promise you.
I think people will like that.
Yeah. Now, Jeff and I are still gathering information. We know look, they're not running a 34. They run a 43. Zimmer runs a 43. Everybody knows that who follows the NFL. Now, this is going to be a completely different philosophy than Jim Schwartz. They'll blitz more. They'll disguise more. Then again, every other defense blitzes more. So it's not really saying much.
Right.
But they are going to disguise. And because of the way they're going to play their front, they'll be good against the run. They'll still be good. The Eagles actually were good against the run. Schwartz, I give him credit though. It always seemed to rally right when you start giving up, like it's done with his defense. The numbers would come home. That's the thing about Schwartz. But I don't think you're going to see the big variance of the highs and lows of Schwartz's defenses, like the home and road splits. Or this week, the Eagles gave up 6 touchdown passes to receivers. Next week, they go home. They shut the opposing offense out. Once it's a new defense. Once Jonathan Gannon gets this thing going. And if the front office, particularly general manager, could draft him good players on defense, they have a chance to be really surprising on defense. But I don't know enough because we may not even get to see a practice.
Good point. Good point. All right, we'll end it with this question. We'll be really quick with this answer. Jimmy Hinder wants to know if there are any sleeper picks for the Eagles at 12. Like, is there anybody that they would pick at 12 that you would consider a sleeper? And if you do the math, Adam,
surprise, you mean?
If you do the math, right? Let's say 4 quarterbacks go in the top 11, and the 3 big receivers, the 2 Alabama guys and Chase, that's 7. The 2 offensive linemen, Slater and Penei Sewell, that's 2 more, that's 9. Pitts, 10. J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, or one of those guys is 11. One of those guys, then that would leave 1 to fall. But would there be anybody else? I mean, I don't consider Kwity Paye to be a sleeper at all. I think that, if he's there and all those guys we talked about are gone.
Right. He would be the bottom of my 12. That would be the first guy I think they would look at. If the 2 top corners are gone, Waddle, Smith are gone.
Christian Barmore, maybe a defensive tackle?
Yeah.
That'd be a sleeper.
I don't know. That's a great question. What the hell? I keep going on this ranking site, and they keep having pop-ups. because I want to make sure I have the right players in front of me. But
Right.
I
I
don't.
would say like if they pick Greg Newsome at 12, that would be a sleeper, but I don't see that happening.
That would be a sleeper pick. He's going on the first. I just don't
I
believe
agree.
it would be at 12. That's why I think when I said I wouldn't be so sure they're staying at 12. That's the reason why is you have to be prepared. If you're Howie Roseman and Andy Weidel, in particular, those two guys, because they're in charge of the draft, you have to be prepared for the bottom to fall out. The Alabama receiver's gone. Forget Kyle Pitts. He's long. He's like a zip code gone. He's long gone. It's just that like who might be there. I don't see, folks. I'm going to hammer this home. I know teams that have Horn over Surtain. Believe it or not, I do. So I don't know where the Eagles are on those two guys. I mean, I know they like them, but I don't know how they have them ranked. I don't believe either will be there at 12. I just don't. Now, I will tell you this though. There's some teams are a little bit they're not concerned for the long term at all on Waddle's ankle. It's just a matter of how. If you're a team that needs him to start right away, remember he has a 6-month 5-6 month rehab on his ankle. Okay. If you're concerned about him looking great and ready week 1 and having a lot of practices in, you could think of this. You could be narrow-minded and say, you know what, we have to have the guy on the field. We can't wait for him. Where a good GM won't care. I mean, you're not drafted for 1 year, but there'll be some teams that'll be desperate and go, oh, geez, he's come back for this bad ankle injury. If for some reason Waddle's there at 12, it's going to be because of the ankle. The only reason. I'm telling you right now, that's the only reason.
All right. One last name I'll give as I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
That it would be a sleeper because you don't hear him associated with the Eagles, but he certainly can be picked in that 10 to 15 range. And that's Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. Now, he's looked at by a lot of people as a 3-4 outside linebacker, but as Greg Cosell told us, he's got incredibly long arms and off the charts athleticism. And if you think he can hold up as a run defender on the edge in a 4-3 and put some weight on if need be, or just has the arms to be able to get off blocks of offensive tackles and stop the run, then he's going to be a great pass rusher for somebody. So we know the Eagles love pass rushers. So that to me would be a potential sleeper at 12.
Well,
right.
I would say just the only thing I would add there, Danielle Hunter from out of LSU. I remember when he was drafted. And he was long and he can move. He had a great motor. And I always wondered, like, why was he not a first-round pick? Because I kept hearing how he was a sleeper pick. Was he drafted in the 3rd round?
I think it was a 3rd rounder, yeah.
Okay. I just remember going to the training camp that year. I'm like, who is this guy? That's where I said, why is this guy? Why was he not a first round? Because he was no one could handle the guy. Explosive. I was talking to my buddy Paul Allen, the play-by-play voice, and he goes, oh, man, dude. This kid is going to be something else. I'm like, okay, good. I'm not, not a scout or anything. At least my eyes weren't deceiving me. So when you talk about length, that's a Zimmer system, and they like guys who are long on the front 4. One other little nugget. One of the coaches under Zimmer over the years told me that they actually did run a little wide 9, just a little.
I'm sure everybody would love to hear that.
Now, well, the wide 9 got sacks. The Eagles' D line was the number 1. They had the most sacks of any D line in the National Football League last season. Most people probably don't know that. And they were number 2 in, I believe, pressures from PFF. Which I'll tell you what, teams use that stuff. It's for whatever the eye cannot see. That's how great PFF gives you everything the eye can't see.
Right.
So anyway,
all right, good stuff. That'll end it. I want to say big thanks to DraftKings. Big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. Of course, big thanks to everybody here watching. We'll be back next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. I'm sure more draft questions will be here for us. So thanks to everybody. We'll catch you next week on our Ask ITB live stream. Have a good night.